All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Optics in Action, where we spotlight leaders with vision and clarity. And today I'm excited to have a guest with us, Dr. Sue Cain from the Corporate Learning Institute. I met her a few years ago, and we've been collaborating on DISC assessments, and she's just got some amazing knowledge to share. So I am super excited to have Dr. Sue Cain on today to spotlight her and the work that she's doing around the DISC assessments for professionals and organizations and all these types of things. So, Dr. Sue, welcome, and
Thank you.
we're excited to have you on. What can you tell us about yourself and the Corporate Learning Institute?
Happy to be here, Ryan. Thanks for having me. So the Corporate Learning Institute was actually founded in South Haven, Michigan, as the Black River Center way back in the late 80s, everybody. And we were responding at the time to a need for an increased interest in team building. And we had a conference center actually on the ground in South Haven where we serviced many teams and groups using what we call ropes courses. So if you can imagine, here in the Chicago area, we have several. Our current partner is the Wheaton Park District, and I recommend their course very highly. But we believe in experiential learning. So our roots are in experiential learning, which is essentially learning by doing, and that's hands-on learning, iterative learning, backing out of a mistake and regrouping around what might work better. That kind of adult engagement is what has informed my practice, which is now based outside Chicago with no conference center. And we still bring portable initiatives into many of our engagements. So we're doing a lot of hands-on learning because adults learn best that way. So our company, Corporate Learning Institute, is, how many years is that, Ryan? Let's see, late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s. So we're coming up on 35, 40 years, maybe
somewhere
boy. In the mid 30s, something like that.
That's right.
Very good. Well, I'm super excited to have you. So what was the what compelled you? And so I understand you're a co-founder of this Corporate Learning Institute.
Right.
What compelled you to start it? What compelled you to do this? And why have you continued for these years, a couple of decades now? Like this is something that seems you're really passionate about. What compels you to do this?
So I'm an entrepreneur by nature. My family, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, graphic designers. And my goal when I went to graduate school at University of Chicago was to come out with a clinical degree, which I did. And then I supplemented that degree with an organizational leadership doctorate degree, EDD. And my passion is in helping clients get on with their agenda. So from a performance perspective, it's about helping people find where they can perform at their optimal level, be it individual counseling and coaching. I have a small select private practice, and then I coach quite a few individuals at different contribution levels. But primarily my passion is, honestly, it's helping teams and organizations really get on with their agenda and make their work life happier, more productive. And that's what we do. I do a great deal of organizational performance building with online and in-person training and development. I not only facilitate, but we design our own work. So everything we do is customized. That keeps me very curious, Ryan. Like, what's going on in this scenario that we can intervene and help with? And we can't fix the past, right? We can't fix it. So we're going to look at the future and we're going to think about how to build that best future together.
I love it. That may be one of my takeaways for this is you stay curious, right? I think if we're always curious and always learning, it's one of the things that gets me really excited about helping with people and process and alignment is every time I go into a new organization, I get to learn about some new way that something's manufactured or some challenge that they're dealing with as a team and the struggle between handoffs between departments and all these types of things. So staying curious, I think, is genuinely, showing that we care about each other and that we want to learn, I think is often probably draws your audiences to you, probably draws the teams together in a way that people like sharing. Do you find that experience?
Oh, yeah. From a thorough needs assessment, be it a series of conversations or surveys, you can really discern what the learning objectives or needs are of any given client. And that's the art and science of putting together what we think of as customized training or coaching. We don't do anything off the shelf, as it were, here. We're really a custom house. Like if you walked into a bakery and there were wrapped goods in there, you'd kind of, like in a little cell bags, you'd probably say, oh, did they make that here? We are definitely a custom bakery. We kind of go through that process, as you said, of curiosity and finding out what isn't working for a client, what their pain points are, what their potential gains might be, what the culture looks like, how we can begin to best assist them in moving forward, whatever forward looks like.
Yeah.
So to do that, we still use some of those outdoor activities that we haul indoors many times. Sometimes we're in the outdoors, but many times we're in the indoors. And when we're online, we're using all sorts of mental gymnastics to keep people engaged. We don't talk at people, we talk with them.
I love it. So what does what types of teams or clients benefit the most from what you do? What are kind of the teams or clients that you enjoy working with, or that enjoy working with you, that get value from the activities and the ideas that you've got?
Geez, so that's a tough one, because we meet teams where they are, and we meet leaders and individual contributors where they are. And we've had such an amazing career path, from working with the writers of Cirque du Soleil to the heads of Washington, of government heads, to coaching individuals from very high profile organizations, all the way to family run organizations right near my home in the Chicagoland area. And so we've got this, bandwidth, ability to kind of work across, if you will, all sorts of different organizational companies, and kind of zoom in on where they are, where they need to go. And so through the years, we just got so much knowledge, and we know what's not effective, what doesn't work. We know what works best in any given situation. Sometimes we're called upon to coach, and sometimes we're called upon to train and offer a customized training. And frequently I'm working with very large corporations, multinationals, who were engaging in a series of Zoom team coaching or individual coaching sessions. So this is what we do. There's just no one profile I can cite, but I enjoy working with everybody, regardless of where they are, cross marketplace. And how can we jump in and be most useful is always the curiosity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you think about, I often talk about the intersection of people and process. So you come at the world very much through a lens, it seems, of people and leadership and teams and communication and personality, like DISC assessments or things like that. And I started my career very much in the chemistry and finance and like the world of things, right? It's like the world of things and numbers. And but what I've experienced over my career is that this intersection between people and leaders and leadership and process, the ability to have simple ways of doing things, and that intersection is where sometimes it collides. And so I'm curious for your thoughts on how do you work with people to ensure that they also have some processes or some ways of thinking about things, or frameworks for getting things done? What's your process for sort of intersecting those two things?
Oh man, I have over the years developed and acquired and accrued and developed so many useful tools, models, hand tools that I consider folks to use to reframe. I'm going to give you a real quick one right now, and it's an old tool. So I feel very strongly that the work we do is solution focused, and what we don't do is ethereal textbook work. Sure, we rely on research. Sure, I'm a keen reader of 10 different manuscripts across different business sectors every week. And I stay abreast with the current thinking regarding learning, training, coaching, all of those subject matters. But I'm going to give you a real quick, useful hand tool. When a team is struggling and they are at a kind of a stopping point where they're hesitation and they're folks not sure what's going on, and people that are perhaps not contributing at their fullest potential, we often will introduce a tool called the GRPI model. Now, you might have already heard of this, but many folks have not. And here's what it stands for. Imagine a triangle, and at the top of the triangle, there is a little section called goals. And this is where folks need to be clear on where we're going. Where are we going? What are our goals? Right underneath there is a little section called roles. What am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? How do we align that? Underneath that are work processes and procedures. Who gets to make decisions? Do I have to run this through anybody? How does workflow happen? At the bottom of the pyramid are interpersonal relationships. And that stands for G, goals, R, roles, P, processes, and I, interpersonal relationships. Typically, people come to us and say our group just isn't meshing. They're just not aligning. We're not getting the work done that we could. And what I find is that, and what research informs this, is that very often that those issues are felt at the interpersonal level, but they're actually stemming from the lack of clarity and alignment on goals and where we're going. Yeah. And perhaps that's because, as a leader, I am moving too quickly and I kind of left my team behind, or maybe that's because I'm an extrovert and my folks tend to be quieter and they don't ask for the information they need, so they hesitate. And so we find that that model, just the GRPI model that you can easily Google, or I'm happy to send folks, is just a useful, quick mind tool to use to say, where are we? Are we clear on goals, roles, processes, procedures? And as a result, how are our interpersonal relationships? So that model is from a researcher named Noel Tichy, and he did a lot of work on where conflict comes from. And what he found is that 80% of conflict comes from lack of clarity on goals. So I think
that makes sense. As you're talking, I'm sort of thinking about different dynamics, different situations in my own life, or teams that I've worked on or observed, and that lack of alignment on goals and roles and process. And what was the fourth one? What was your I?
Goals, roles, process, interpersonal relationships.
Interpersonal relationships.
And you can do a real quick 1 to 5. How clear are you guys on goals? 1 to 5, 5 high. How clear are you guys on roles? Yeah. 1 to 5. You can just do a real quick eyeball, we call that fist to 5. That's another model, which is how clear are you on how we're supposed to have workflow and who makes what decisions? Yeah. Oh, I'm at a 2, I'm at a 3, Yeah. You can just give a real quick survey orally, verbally, right?
Yeah. And find out right. I suspect sometimes the leader might think that there's more alignment than some of the other people on the team, right? There might be a little bit of a distribution between different people on the team. Of somebody might think, oh, our goals are very clear and my role is very clear, and right, they may think that they're very clear in those things, but there may be other people in the team who aren't feeling that way. So
perception is everything.
Yeah,
perception is everything. And I think I was mistaken. So when you do Noel Tichy was one of the researchers. I also have a Michael Brim. I like to give credit to folks that actually are due the credit. So as your viewers go online, they're going to see a couple of different people credited to this model. Yeah, Noel Tichy and others. And others. But
et al, right? Yeah, awesome. Very good. So as people are thinking about getting this clarity, so do you help then sort of investigate where this lack of alignment and lack of clarity is coming from, and help them develop training and ways of going about solving it? Is that the core to what you do?
Yeah. And I like to think of training as an elaborate kind of conversation that's carefully sculpted to get at the issues that a client has. And so we're not training at people. So we're investing in investigating. Where are you and where do you need to be? So all the tools that we've accrued over the years, my gosh, oh man, I also teach, so I have quite a few files filled with useful tools like the GRPI model to help clients get on with their performance development. But yeah, I mean, you can enter again at any point in that a leader, team, or individual contributor are at, and kind of think through before you do your learning objectives, which tools map to which issue. Because here's the truth, people have a millisecond in their careers to step away from work and focus on something else, a millisecond.
Yep.
And so the usefulness of this short-term solution-focused kind of practice that we have here is that we get right in and offer a useful tool that can be immediately used, not unpacked over 8 articles.
Yep. Yep. And,
So,
do you find that attention spans are decreasing?
well, I think only because we're asking more of our contributors in a less amount. I mean, we're asking them to get so much more done. And I think going back to your original question, which very much interests me, what comes that intersection of people and process? Look, I'm a capitalist. I live in the United States, but I like to call myself a reasonable capitalist because I care very much about human development and human happiness. And I'm very concerned that we're heading in a direction strategically that we're not paying attention to human beings, and that we have to allow time and room and resources for people to flourish. That's the reason we have a job, or that's the reason we have a marketplace full of opportunity. I'm thinking is that people can have happy lives.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring in a couple of heroes. I like Adam Grant's work. I like Peter Block's work, who think like human beings. Simon Sinek is good. If your viewers want a few like little follow-on details as to who to go follow for that humanistic capitalistic view I have. But it's a long-term view. Yeah. It's how do we sustain our workforce and keep them happy? What do we need to do, right? As helpers.
Yeah. Well, I alluded to it a little bit earlier that I came at the world through the world of or my lens was sort of the world of process, and your lens is much more the world of people. The one thing that I started exploring and started really becoming clear to me over the past several years is that process is only useful to the extent that it enables people to do something. And so, the early career stuff that I had around process, and I was going to solve the world's problems through process and things like this, became really, I would say it's become exponentially more clear to me as my career has progressed, that process is only useful to the extent that it impacts humanity, that it improves the human working condition or things like that. And so I often say that people without process get frustrated. Process without people is wasted. This has kind of become a mantra for me.
Interesting.
And so I was out camping a couple of almost probably 2 years ago now. I was in a camping and I was out just taking a walk, hiking, and the word optics came to me, the word optics. And it has 2 definitions. One of the definitions is the study of light. It's very scientific. Lenses and alignment and focal points and all these scientific things. But optics also has a second meaning that alludes to something you said earlier, and that is perceptions of people about a situation. And so everything we're doing is all around this concept of optics. It's the alignment of people and process, the technical answers, and there's people related answers to problems, and they have to intersect together. So this has been absolutely fascinating talking to you, Dr. Sue. Is Dr. Sue okay, or should I have called you Dr.
Yeah. No, I've been called worse.
I should have asked earlier. But it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you. So how do people learn more about you? Where can they go to find out more about you, to connect with you, to learn more about some of the concepts and some of the things that you shared on this the podcast?
Well, I'm going to send you the GRPI model for your use and for you to send out to your viewers. And then they can go to my website. It's corplearning.com. And we have many resources there. I'm happy to send a resource over if somebody were to contact you, and you could forward that to me and tell me, what are you looking for? What kind of hand tool, here and now, useful hand tool is needed in a given situation to help really unlock people in terms of their ability to move forward. It can be anything, time management related, leadership related, helping people feel more engaged, problem solving, conflict management and development, whatever the topic, believe you me, I have the tool. So I like these little short vignettes, these little short, useful hand tools, as I call them, because it helps cut through what I think of as complexity. And sometimes we pretend like things are very complex when they're really not. We can just, through simple conversation, work through issues and process those together and come out at a very good end. So they can go to my website, they can go to you, they can look at my LinkedIn. And again, I'm happy to connect and happy to send a tool of any topic.
Yeah. And I know from working with you already over the past couple of years that you have been, very, very helpful at not just giving an answer, but also providing additional resources and information. So I think you're one of those great resources in my life, and I want to make sure that that my audience takes advantage of that to the extent that it creates value for you and for them. Obviously not take advantage of you, but work on mutual value creation, because I think that's what we're all here for. So thank you.
You can't take it with you, Ryan. You got to give it away.
That's right. I love your perspective, Dr. Sue. This has been awesome having you on the podcast, Optics in Action, where we spotlight leaders with vision and clarity. And I hope tons of people watch this, get something from it, and reach out to learn more about some of the things that you're working on. So thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Best to your viewers.